I'm Christina from The Turned Leg. I love to salvage, repurpose, and create and help others to do the same. So, you've painted your piece of furniture, like these drawers. Now what? I don't know about you, but I hate boring furniture. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take your boring painted pieces and amp them up a little bit with some basic DIY paint products. What I'm working on today, just to give you a quick idea, are some pieces of salvage that I found. This piece was painted in faded burlap from DIY Paint and lightly distressed. This drawer has been painted in Water Lily from DIY Paint. And they only all have one coat of paint on them, just so you know. Sometimes you need two. In this case, I'm only using one. And this drawer was painted in Farm Fresh DIY Paint. Are you ready to learn how to make these boring pieces pretty? Let's get started. All of these pieces were a part of a curbside treasure. When I can't save the whole piece, I try to save as much as I can. Next, they were painted with a coat of DIY paint. This first dresser drawer was painted with Farm Fresh, and I lightly distressed using a wet rag. I have a washcloth. It's been soaked in water under the sink, and I use washcloths. I use our old washcloths as shop cloths, and then all you literally do is rub. And this is how you can get the details to appear. And how do you get it to come off more? You apply more pressure. If you rub too much, you can apply more paint, because nothing's set in stone. It's that simple. Now you notice the darkness. That's because the DIY paint is getting wet. DIY paint is water-based and it reactivates with water, which is so cool for blending. But it also allows us to do this awesome magical wet distress. But the darkness is just water. It'll dry. You won't see that. So this is DIY Paint Pennies from Heaven. It is a copper patina. This one I used earlier, and it's all mixed up and ready to go. And I'm gonna apply it straight. So this is my little Frenchie. And if, as you're applying it, you worry it is too heavy, you can always lighten it, and I'm gonna do it. But first, I'm just plopping on a whole bunch with some water. So don't freak out. Oh my goodness, what is she doing? I'm making it beautiful. We're adding some bling. Go bold, try new things. If you've never used the liquid patinas, they seriously last forever. A little goes a long way. To blend it in a little bit better, I'm spraying with my Water Girl spray bottle, and then I'm using a dry brush. I'm using my Insider DIY paintbrush, and I'm just kind of smoothing it over lightly, and I am bringing the copper all the way through. Now I need to let this dry, but I have one more important step for this piece, so stay tuned to the end of the video. Next piece up is this piece of salvage from the top of the piece. I painted it with faded burlap DIY paint and lightly distressed it already. Now I'm going to add some decrepit dust and dark wax to bring out the details. I'm going to get some clear wax. Now what I like to do is I have a paper plate, and I like to just offload my clear wax so it doesn't get contaminated. I put it right there, and we're gonna clear wax this first, and then we're gonna do some magic. So, first thing I'm gonna do is apply the wax. And all you do to apply the wax is you need a waxing brush, or you can use a cloth. This is my Short and sweet DIY wax brush. It works awesome. I'm going to show you a few of my other wax brushes as I'm working. When you apply your wax, it's really important to work it in. When you apply the wax, it's going to darken the color of the paint. Sometimes it does weird things like making it almost appear translucent. Like maybe you can see like crazy brush strokes here. I bet you can probably see that up close. That freaks people out. It is called the wax freak out. Don't let it happen to you. Don't freak out until it dries, because it will. When it dries, it kind of ends up being the color in between the dark and the light. And it'll all even out, so you don't have to worry too much. What we're going to do for this piece to really make these details pop, because like I said, they were kind of boring. They didn't really stand out. You could white wax. You could do any of the techniques I'm doing on the separate pieces on anything. But for this one, I'm going to show you dark wax and decrepit dust. We're going to do the decrepit dust first. This is exactly what it sounds. This is the decrepit dust from DIY Paint. It comes in a dark and a white, and it looks like powder. In fact, so much so that I use a brush, a little tiny brush, kind of like a makeup brush. In fact, if you had old makeup brushes, they would work good. Grab some on your brush directly, and you can just brush it on. And it's not gonna, now the reason we put the clear wax down is because we want something for it to adhere to and stick. So if you're using a brush, you can get a little bit more control of where you want it. And I'm putting it in the details. Then you take a cloth, a fairly clean cloth, and you kind of rub lightly. Now, the dust is going to fall in all of the cracks and crevices. And although it's very subtle, and I'll hold it up so you can see, it will be more dramatic. It'll really make the piece pop. So dark and decrepit dust, and you can keep applying if you want more, but this really does make it stand out more. Another thing you can use that's very similar to the decrepit dust is using a dark wax. Don't be afraid of waxes. And I'm using my JRV stencil brush to dark wax. Just gonna need just a little. And remember, I put the clear wax already down. So now I'm gonna do the same kind of thing. You brush it where you want. Now the middle of the piece, I wanna keep it the same color. I want the faded burlap to be kind of brighter so that this applique really pops. So I'm only doing the edges in dark wax and then the applique with the decrepit dust. They will give you a very similar look, and it's just kind of personal preference. I think the dark and decrepit dust works better with appliques like this because for me, the wax clogs it up more and you have to use like a Q-tip or something to clean them out. So if you really want that aged look, you got to really kind of clean it out even more when it's tight. The dust you can clean out a lot easier with just a rag. But of course, if you wanted more, a Q-tip would work. So now, same thing. We're just going to wipe it back. The wax, I think, works better if you're trying to do this kind of a look on a larger piece. The dust is easier for smaller projects and for smaller parts like this. The last piece I'm working on is another drawer that I salvaged. This drawer was painted with one coat of DIY paint in Water Lily. To amp this piece up a little bit, I'm going to be applying white wax and golden ticket liquid patina. First, I wet distress the drawer. I am using DIY paint, white wax, and once again, I don't usually offload my white wax. I am going to be using one of my favorite wax brushes, which is my JRV stencil brush, to wax the large. I was using the small, but I'm using the large because I'm going to do the whole piece. All of these are available for sale on my website, shoptheturnedlike.com. And I am just going to smother it with wax. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe it back. So I'm wiping back, especially around the hardware, because nobody wants gloppy wax. So make sure I wipe the hardware good. Time to add some sparkle. Last time I added copper, now I'm adding gold with DIY paint, golden ticket, liquid patina. Remember, I say wax is always last, but I'm going to put the gold just on the hardware here. I liked it so much on the hardware, I decided to also add it to the edges of the drawers, and it did stick. So even though wax is usually last, the liquid patina can go over it. Time to let this piece dry and focus my attention back on the other drawer with the copper patina. So now what I'm going to do, so we have Farm Fresh, just to review. We have Farm Fresh. We have the Pennies from Heaven copper patina, a bit watered down and blended around the edges, pretty straight on the hardware. And what I am now going to be adding is the Shipwrecked wax from DIY Paint, which is a luscious blue. And you don't just have to use this with the copper. This gives you the look of copper patina, but you can use this on so many DIY paint colors. It's a lot of fun. I used it on the door that's behind me in my studio. So I'm using my JRV, another little tiny stencil brush, because now I am just going to dab in. I'm just going to dab it on in spots. I will wipe it back, but wherever you think it needs a little. Now, why are we doing this? It's so similar in color because it's going to add depth. And it's going to really be absolutely add that little extra to your piece. This Shipwrecked wax is just amazing. You can paint something white and put on the Shipwrecked wax and the details. You can do it with so many combinations. So if you haven't tried Shipwrecked wax yet, you need to. I am blending in the wax with just a rag. It is picking up on my rag. And what it is doing, besides working the wax in, is it's spreading it. Maybe you guys noticed that I was dabbing it on. And you're like, she's gonna have polka dots. Nope. Because when I do this, it's spreading it out. I decided to dry this on camera so you could see that DIY paint lightens as it dries. You, of course, don't have to use a hairdryer. When you're working with blending and adding finishing touches, it's really important that you play with it till you like it. And I kept playing with the pieces until I got them the way that I liked them. In just a few moments, I'm going to show you the big reveal on how all three pieces turned out. Hopefully this video has inspired you that you don't have to have boring furniture, whether you're adding colored wax or a little decrepit dust or even some sparkly liquid patina. You can add just a little extra and it'll really make your piece special. Thanks so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It will continue to help me to make more videos to help others to salvage, repurpose, and create.